Okay. So here we are at 2 o'clock at the Operations Committee meeting on March 21st. We have the 3 committee members, myself, Mel Campbell, Tricia Fidrich in attendance, as well as our board chairman, David Stribinger. And if we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Which will be that way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda for March 21st with the change of the facilities use report being moved to right after the biannual, or in conjunction with the biannual routine maintenance report. Agree with you now?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes. We need to, are there any public comments from? I just have to ask 2 or 3 times. Okay, and then we need to approve the March 9th committee meeting minutes.
That we approve the March 9th committee meeting minutes.
Just so. Are you on board? I'm going to take that as a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, so up first we have the routine maintenance report.
Randy Majors will be presenting them.
What is your title now? So you're talking about that. You got promoted and you're in the director of maintenance?
No. Facility services manager.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go.
Wanted me to wait for Wendy to get settled. Okay. Good afternoon. So today we are presenting to the committee the maintenance and cleaning report. So that's PE 7.5.
Oh, my computer is wacky. It's glitching. It's
Are we still zooming?
Well, we're still zooming, but mine is funky. Doing funky things right now. Share. That share again.
Oh. See what you're saying.
Back away.
we all have
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah,
Mr. Stribinger, do you have the, we don't have the report.
it's in board,
It's in board
docs.
docs, so
I just
let's just go ahead and figure out.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're presenting maintenance and cleaning report PE 7.5. Our first slide is a picture of a project completion. So we're going to go through and show some project completions for north of the Broad schools and south of the Broad. The first picture presentation that you're going to see is for north of the Broad. This was a compressor replacement that our maintenance department and the HVAC team in that department helped to assist with getting that compressor into place. Obviously, it required a large crane over at Well Branch High School, the gym. Again, if you would like to flip to the next page, we've got Coosa Elementary and St. Helena ECC. The team did some repainting of fire lanes there. South of the Broad, the maintenance was supportive in also completing another compressor replacement for Hilton Kent High School. This affected our V Hall and Z Hall at that location. We are seeing an increase in the HVAC parts and replacements as our systems are aging. We are seeing those work orders and those needs increase with our HVAC system. So we are having to source a lot more parts and do an increased amount of these compressor change outs, as well as other parts. The next one was south of the Broad, Okatee Elementary School. So they have a really beautiful outside area on the back side of the school called Monet's Garden. And so during the summer kind of thing, get a little overgrown. So our maintenance landscape team went in there. Before pictures are on the left, the after pictures are on the right. So they just went in and really spruced that up and made it a really nice area for the kids and the staff to Okay, so the next page is should come to is our work order summary report. So as you can see over the last year, March 2021 through September 2021, the work orders increased substantially. And our rating, our percentage of completed work orders also went down.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes,
Can you tell me what the initially acronyms are? I mean, I'm thinking work orders with project managers.
preventative maintenance. So that's your first column.
Okay.
Work
So
orders with preventative maintenance.
and then ABM initiated.
And then.
What is ABM mean?
What is it again?
That's when our people, that's
Yeah, that's our maintenance
Gotcha.
contractor. And then the third is work orders, no preventative maintenance. And the rest of them, so WO would be work order.
Gotcha. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So as you can see, during March of 2021 to September of 2021, our work order volume was extremely high. As far as our counts and our completed work order percentage did falter, as well as our work order in progress. The height of that was during COVID. And last summer, we did have a period of time where our construction, we were in the school. We had less time in the schools during the summer, maintenance did, to complete projects. The current period of September 2021 to February 2022, you'll see that our work order counts do come down a bit, but the percentage of completion has increased and we're right back up to 96%. Any questions on that? Not so far? All right, we'll move on with it. So work order stats. I'll let Robert speak to the next two
okay.
diagrams.
So these actually were for fiscal year, fiscal year 2021, which would have been ending in June of 2021. So, we have not finished out this fiscal year, so that's how we track them. These would have been shown to you at our last meeting where we looked over maintenance as well. And what you can see there, kind of the same stats that Randy had is that we were peaking a couple of years ago, and now they're coming back down as far as our total work orders. And then our total work orders per worker, we've been on kind of a downward trajectory. One of the things that was a little concerning is that maintenance did have a hit on some of their surveys previously. I don't want to be the spoiler, but they've increased substantially since that time. So I think we're getting our work orders per worker down to a manageable level. So that's all good to see. On the next page, you see total square foot per year. That's showing that we are increasing in square footage of the district as a whole. And as such, also we've been adding maintenance staff. Specifically, a few years ago, we added the landscape crew. And even though we're increasing our total square footage, you'll see that we peaked some time ago and we're leveling out with the total square footage per worker per year. So that's good to see. I would say we have added 2 additional staff to maintenance with ESSER funds. Those staff have not come in yet, and actually probably won't come in till, I assume we're a month away. You started the hiring process. One question I have for you. So next year, when we do this report, or after July, when we finish this, we're going to probably have those workers, I would hope, by April, or at least by May. So they're going to come at the end of the fiscal year. I don't know if you want us, it's kind of, how do we report that? They'll only be in for 2 months of the year, but we'll discuss that next time. We'll probably count them and then just note that they've only been in place for 2 months. So any questions on the work order?
You said they're hiring 2 for ESSER?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll hand it back to Brandon.
So then,
Mr.
go
Smith,
ahead.
do you-
I do have a question. In terms of hiring the 2, is there a specific reason why we're hiring 2? And we're doing it through ESSA? What's the purpose of hiring 2? What are their job descriptions?
Well, let Ed tell job description. Specifically, what we've had due to COVID is maintenance has had to respond to, we're filling cleaning liquid. We're using the maintenance warehouse as a staging area for PPE. So there's been a pretty large burden on maintenance to managing all our COVID supplies and COVID protection. So because of that, we're adding the 2 additional workers. And as far as what 2 we're adding, I'll let you take. What are the 2 positions you're adding?
Typically, the 2 positions we're adding, we're advertising for general technicians, and that way they can travel around, they can do just about anything. They can either be delivery people, movers. We're seeing a large uptick in in-school meetings and functions, because now that COVID's kind of receded, people want to get back to their functions, their celebrations that they're doing in-house. So we're doing a lot more setup of those.
Trains.
Beaufort and I, one week we had to set up the stage twice and take it down twice in 1 week. That takes a team of 6 to 7 people, 3 to 4 hours.
That's what, and then that was for graduation, correct?
No, that was the last couple of weeks. So we're supporting these. We never say no.
So for the last couple of weeks, you put up the stage twice at Beaufort High School?
Yes, sir.
What function was that, Mr. Knight?
I do not know.
It was school supported by the principal. We don't ask questions beyond that.
So when this is my next question. When ESSER funds are done, where do we intend to find the finances to pay these people? Are they coming on short term, long term? Who's going to be responsible for paying their contracts out?
So what I'd answer on that is that the way that the maintenance contract is set up is by square footage, and we do see potential to adding additional square footage. So if we add additional square footage in the next 2-3 years, we just absorb those people into the increase in maintenance workers due to that square footage. If not, we do it through attrition. People retire, we wouldn't bring them back. So those would be our 2 methods of dealing with that.
They're actually hired as full-time temporary because we know these aren't permanent as of right now positions. So that's what we advertise them for.
Yeah, at this point I'm okay, but after that, I'm not concerned. I'll leave that alone right now.
Yes.
So, Mr. Otting, I remember it was a year ago when you shared with us that the additional duties that were required of some of our maintenance workers now. And at that time, you had said that you definitely needed a couple more people. And so what report would that have been, a year ago?
Yes, that would probably, yeah.
And so, but so now you're anticipating.
Probably 6 months ago, actually.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
So now you're anticipating hopefully bringing them on board within the next couple months.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
We're actively advertising.
okay.
Hopefully sooner.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great, because I know you demonstrated a need for it a couple, when the last time you were.
Once I have the approval, I'm
Right,
full steam ahead.
right, wonderful. All right, thank you. Okay, Brent.
Okay, so page 9, we should be on page 9 now, we're gonna go over the maintenance survey. So these were the results of the surveys that were distributed to schools, to the administrators at schools, at the end of February. We did close the survey out mid-March. We did request, survey responses from 32 of our schools. And facilities. Out of the 32, we received 29 responses, so that is great news.
Yeah.
Been working on.
Our response rate was a 90.62. So that for us is absolutely phenomenal.
That is.
You've made Mr. Campbell happy.
And it took a team of not only our department, but even our senior level managers and executive directors. And so it really came together. So we're excited about that. Over the next 2 pages, you are going to see the customer service responsiveness graph and also the quality of service. You'll see with the customer service responsiveness from our last period, which would have been September of 21 when we reported. Out of the 5 categories, we have maintenance has increased 3 out of the 5. The initial first 2 questions.
Tell me where you read that, where you see, where you read that.
Page 9.
Right, I'm looking at page 9, but I don't see that information that you're stating. I don't see that.
I'm just reading off the graph here. Just the chart.
At the bottom, is that what the information?
Yeah,
is?
those are the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, that's what it's for.
No, you're welcome. So the first 2 categories are specific. Those questions are specific to the management staff. Those did come down a small percentage this survey period. The last 3 questions, which are rate the courtesy of your staff, the responsiveness of your staff, maintenance staff to work orders, and the responsiveness to emergency work orders did increase. That is good to see. Page 10.
But before we go, could you help me
Yes, sir.
understand? I see the colors, do these colors specifically, are they representing, what are they representing exactly?
So this graph is laid out based on previous surveys. So we keep that historical data so we can see the trend if we're trending at, up, or down. So it's really hard to see, but the initial graph goes back to March 18. So your period is March 18, August 18, March 19, August 19, February 20, September 20, February 21, August 21, and February 22. So this survey is sent out to our schools twice a year. So we like to keep a good bit of that data in there just so we can continue to see how we're working through the contract. You're welcome. Page 10 is specific to quality of service for our survey. I'm really excited to report that in all 6 categories, there is a substantial increase. The rating scale on this goes up to a 4. So you can see a lot of these are, at 3.5, close to 3.5. So you can see that division from our last survey period to our current survey period, that there was really a huge momentum and shift in what the schools are seeing and their service that they're getting. The question for me, so it's the first one is, how well do you believe your school is being maintained? That's a pretty significant one. That went from a 2.80 last survey period and fall of 2021 to a 3.14.
So one thing I've noticed on this graph, sorry, if you don't mind.
Yes, no, please.
The number graph on number 9 goes to a scale to 4.5. And this graph goes to a scale of 4.0. And I don't know if we have before.
We do not, it's a formatting.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, because we do
yeah.
graph. but-
Yeah, we only top at a 4, so we'll make that correct.
It just makes it, it's, I was
like
like, why am I not picking up
for
on
the
this?
next time around.
Okay. Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Any other questions about maintenance survey?
Do you remember, what the percentage of responsiveness was last time? And now you said it was up to 90.
It's 90.6 now.
Was it?
It's like 19.
I mean, it was,
60.
yeah, it was just over 50%. It
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't substantial.
Excellent. Now, do you have any questions about the maintenance report?
I see this trend is going back to what it was over the years. Last year, it was down.
You got your survey
Well-
response rate up, so I mean.
Well, I thought that was attainable.
Apparently it was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, I'm still concerned that, I still think that classroom teachers should still have some type of input in this. I mean, because the principals are not always, in the buildings and dealing with different things. And, principal has other different things that they're dealing with along with this. So I'm still concerned that we don't have the first responders. In terms of looking at the building, I look at teachers as first responders in the building, and we don't have their input. So this is, let me say, I am appreciative of the 90, how much ever percent it was as in terms of administrators. But my concern is I want to hear from our teachers because they do matter. And I want to hear what they think and how they see. So I'm still looking for a part in the surveys where teachers can respond as well so that we can know exactly what they're thinking of what they're thinking.
And I think I'm gonna put a pin in that for a second, because we'll get to the upgraded policy, what we're doing here going forward. So we'll come back to that after when we get to the end here. Specifically on this maintenance and cleaning report, one question I have, he said you're hiring general technicians. So we have different roles. They're not all general technicians, like some are electricians, do we have certain areas where there are shortages that are more concerning, or is everything about the same?
No, all of our trades are in place.
Okay.
Electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, those are our key trades that we use. And we try not to divert them to do other things such as moving and general technician work. And also our PM crew, they work in the evenings, and we try to, you're on the PMs, you don't help move things or do other things. The PMs are critical to maintaining the infrastructure of the school.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know that you aren't having trouble hiring some of these trades because they're in high demand and low supply. So that's good news.
Correct.
The only other question I had, when we talked about the HVAC, you mentioned that, we're starting to run into problems with HVAC, but we've got 3.5 million set aside ESSER funding for that. Is that going to improve when we get those projects done? Is that on the horizon?
Every little bit helps. So, but yes, we're working on summer work. I have to say one of our biggest problems right now is just lead time. HVAC, and we're actually experiencing that in maintenance on just maintenance work and replacing things when they break. Lead times right now on HVAC equipment, you're 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
So, I'll be quite honest with you, we're struggling to do we're going to be in trouble doing some of our summer work projects just because we cannot get the equipment fast.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that we would have liked to do this summer, we're going to have to do Christmas break or next summer just because of the overtime. We're seeing that with maintenance parts too, compressors and other things. It's just overtime. So
right.
That's a story. When something breaks and you want it fixed immediately, the problem is getting those in. Now, when I give those long order times, let me just, because I know Ms. Vidrich has some specific HVAC issues she's thinking of. Long order times a lot of our units are manufactured specifically for our use. So they're not something off the shelf. They're designed, built, everything for a certain location.
Now, for something that's off the shelf, as far as a barred unit or something like that, it's about 4 months, or 3 to 4 months. So still bad, but not quite as bad as all of our rooftop units and everything that are designed specifically for us.
But hopefully at some point, we're gonna put $3.5 million worth of new.
Oh, yes,
It's
as
gonna
soon
get
as
that,
we
right?
can. And hopefully people will get the equipment problem will get resolved and we'll be able to order stuff and get it in a quicker time period. But yes, we're gonna work as hard as we can and spend as much as we can to get as many of these units replaced.
So you wanna move on?
Actually, before we move on, can you tell me why you want to hold off on addressing what I just said?
Because in this report, there's 3 things: the maintenance report, the custodial report, and then the new processes they're putting in place. So it's my opinion that since you're talking about incorporating teachers, that might come up as we talk about reviewing sort of the new process that they put in place for satisfaction. So I just thought it would work better in that
Okay.
issue,
Thank
but
you.
not in any way to dismiss your point, just have more of a discussion then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll do custodial, then we'll do the improved processes discussion.
All right, so we should be on slide 11. Ms. Bowman. Okay, so the next part of our report is going to address our custodial services. HES is our current custodial provider. So slide 12, you can move to that slide, is just a snapshot of areas, schools, places that custodial did cleaning over winter break. So when they do winter cleaning, that's where they're coming in to do their floor work. They're focusing primarily on cafeterias, hallways, common areas, and they're stripping those hallways or top scrubbing them and applying a coat to 2 to 3 coats of wax. So you can kind of see the visual once they go in and do that during winter break. It really shows well in a lot of our schools. So the next, let's see, the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slides are all the custodial survey results for this contractor. Good news with this one as well, we pushed really hard. Out of 32 locations surveyed, we got 30 responses back. So an even higher response rate for this at 93.75%.
That's one point out, because this slide has 4.5,
This one,
which makes
yeah.
it look like it's less than it
Yes,
is.
our scale is 4. So we will go back and we will make those corrections. As far as the custodial survey results, as you scan through these slides, you're going to see that there are categories where they have come up, and then there are more categories than not that they have come down. Overall, they are trending down. We're only 3 surveys in with this contractor, so those discussions, Mr. Otting and myself and our procurement department, we have discussed with this contractor the trend that we're starting to see in just 3 surveys of them, of the service and needing more from them. Kind of give you guys a few minutes to go through. This survey is broken out to where your first slide, you're going to have customer service. And then the following slides are specific to service areas in the facilities that you're servicing. So your entryways and hallways, your classrooms, your admin offices, your media centers, your gymnasiums, and multi-purpose rooms. So that's how this in your cafeteria. As you can see, when we get into the scope of what they're actually doing in these areas, their scores are coming down in some categories significantly lower than they have been in the previous 2 surveys. I mean, yeah, no, and again, this is just a 3rd survey period for them, the studio. Any questions on the custodial survey results before we go to slide 20, which is where we're going to discuss that feedback and the district oversight. Just a quick review of some things we're putting or have put in place to be more accountable. Any questions specific to the custodial survey?
Thank you. So what kind of conversations have you had with the contractor about these decreasing scores? And what are their thoughts on how they can remedy it?
So once we completed the survey, we did meet, Robert, myself, and our director of procurement does meet to review the survey and do a semi-annual review as far as performance evaluation with the contractor. So they were presented with these results. The initial feedback from the contractor, they were not happy, as you can probably guess. So we discussed, and we're kind of getting into what we're trying to put into place. So this is going to hit this slide 20. So we are going back to doing our monthly walkthroughs now, sort of south of LeBron and north of LeBron. So when we do those monthly walkthroughs, it's coordinated from a district level. And we are bringing in our contractors. So we're bringing in our maintenance contractor, our custodial contractor, and our grounds contractor, along with district staff, myself, Robert, and our facilities program manager. So everyone's in the room, along with school administration, to have those discussions, to talk about those concerns. At the conclusion of that meeting, then we actually physically walk the facility and allow the administrator to kind of show us what they want us to see in their specific space. So that is one thing that, during COVID, we were not doing.
Okay.
So we've started that program back up. We have also tasked both of our maintenance and custodial contractors with having meetings face to face. We've asked them to have their area managers schedule meetings with school administration, and or whom that school administrator appoints as their contact person. Have those meetings, the suggested schedule, and you can kind of see on slide 20 what I'm referring to. The suggested schedule that from a district level we've put out to our contractors is high schools weekly, middle schools bi-weekly, and then elementary schools monthly, or again as needed. The goal with this is for our contractors, both maintenance and custodial, to be in the same room and to try to get these meetings with school administration to identify these problems and concerns before we get to the survey. So we're more proactive with it. At the conclusion of these meetings, we have asked our area managers for maintenance so far to, and even custodial, to send just real quick email summaries. I know they're very busy, but shoot us an email summary and say, hey, this is what we've discussed, and then copy everyone that was in the room. And if the principal wasn't in the room, then you include the principal in that conversation as well. So they can have a running, dialogue of what's going on. So that's another thing that has been put in place. Maintenance, last reporting period, put out their customer response cards, and you can see the image on slide 20, where when their technicians are going into schools and they're completing work orders, there's a lot of instances where a teacher may request that work order in her specific classroom, and the technician goes to the front office to let the front office know, hey, I've done this work order, and update front office. But then that teacher, that staff member, is never updated or notified as to if their concern was actually taken care of. So they've started to leave, our maintenance workers are equipped with these cards, and they have started to leave them in spaces that they're working. So it's more of a visual, hey, we're here, this is the work order we addressed, this is where we're at with that work order. And then from the custodial standpoint, custodial is also putting out their report cards to their facilities point of contacts as well. So it could be the school administrator, or it could be whomever the school principal has designated. A lot of times it's an AP or an office manager. So from a district level, in addition to these types of things we're doing to try to, gain more oversight, Robert, myself, one of us or both of us meet with maintenance and custodial contractors weekly. And we're meeting with management level, so their district or regional managers or their directors of their departments to keep a finger on the pulse to put out any of those fires that may be coming up.
So I have a couple of questions. Are you ready for questions? Mr. Campbell, do you have a question?
Well,
Okay, well, let's go to Mr. Scrivener until Mr. Campbell's available.
Thank you. I just want to clarify. I'm a little older and my eyes aren't that good, but under we value your feedback, does it say please contact your school dude administrator?
Let's say that.
Yes.
Is that an official title?
That's right, yeah. So our maintenance work order system is through a provider called School Dude. So what this is referring to is schools have the ability to submit work orders. So they can submit a work order if they have concerns at their school. The other thing that you may not see on this card, because this is a draft card, is there was an email account, actually a district email account actually set up that goes to the maintenance department. So if someone were to get one of these cards and have a concern or want to give feedback about what's the information on the card, they can actually email that district email address. And then we have an administrative assistant over in maintenance who is actually assigned to that email account. And so she will go through and actually forward those email feedback or requests or concerns, however they come through. She will forward those to the appropriate managers of maintenance. So that's just another layer of giving schools in our facilities the opportunity to talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. I just, the Big Lebowski came to mind when I saw that, so.
This might be for a follow-up. My question is there a jurisdictional management? Is there a management assigned to particular schools? And is that someone that you can go to look at, let's say it's in that high school, that's been looking at it in that high school, that's, before you do your walkthrough, that person, kind of assess what's happening beforehand.
So is your question on a district level or on a contractor?
Contractors level
Okay.
with district.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maintenance, they are set up, they have a north of the Broad area manager and a south of the Broad area manager. And then under them, they have, two supervisors?
Two supervisors per manager.
So
Two supervisors.
per manager, per zone, and then everything funnels from that. Custodial has a district they have their regional manager, their district manager, and then under their district manager, they have their area account managers. So they have one for the Bluffton area, one for the Hilton Head area. They have one out in the Well Branch area and the Ladies Island Middle School area. And then right around this area with Robert.
Okay, I guess the picture, I got some follow-up questions later on when it comes to, the structure and these people in place now,
Yes, sir.
what they're accountable to and, who's accountable to them. And how do we know that that's meshing from our evaluation standpoint? What I mean is, as a supervisor, not the board is responsible to self-managers, you said, right? And how do we know whether that manager is doing an adequate job? Are we looking at the schools per se under that region ourselves to see how they measure? And under the next region to see, who's managing, who are we being assured that we're getting the right bang for our bucks because of that structure?
Can I just jump in on one thing that Brandy did kind of miss to add is that one of the things the custodial management team did is they put a supervisor in every building. So custodial does have a building, they call it supervisor, so they're there. Now, as far as how well are those individual managers doing, that comes from the survey, that comes from principals talking with us. That happens, as Ed would know, when we do our weekly meetings. If we're starting to get reports of issues on a consistent basis at a certain area, we may have a conversation, and we have had a conversation about specific managers and their abilities to what they need. And we talked about particularly giving them training, things of that nature. Same thing happens on the custodial side. We've had managers that we decided, in the past, haven't been recent. We've got a good management team right now, but there's been a conversation with us and them on whether they're need to find something else to do, that they're not being successful here. So,
so I'm getting at is, who's at the ground level, zero level, and that those new hirees, are those consistent people who've been on the ground level for years. We have to create ownership for buildings and in terms of keeping it clean. People have to be invested, and they've been invested for time. And unless we can get down to that level, I'm concerned that the district is too far removed from having that kind of, concept. So that's the reason I want to know how is it being bedded down.
get your question. I got your question.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Also, I heard all of what you probably whatever you said, and I definitely do agree with Mr. Campbell. And also, I will even say that all of what y'all think is going to work. And why am I going to say that is because I've talked to several people who work on the custodial staff. The problem ain't that they're not there working. The problem is that there's not enough of them, and they're not consistent enough, and the pay is horrible. And so we talk about pay, we subcontract this out. So therefore, once again, as far removed, there's nothing that we, the district, can do about it because we cannot set up their pay. So when you really look at it, if you pay me pennies to come to work, then I'm gonna give you pennies type of work. I'm not gonna come there and do. I'm not gonna come and give you $15, $16 job when you're paying me the bare minimum. And also, we talk about how the district gave out bonuses. This company gave out no bonuses to the employees. So when you look at the total package of how they've been treated and what they've been getting, there's also a culture component in here. And I've had plenty of the custodians have reached out to me and told me that they were very unhappy with this company. So I'm concerned, and I have been waiting on this to bring this to the board at the right time. And so I definitely wanted to see this report and see what the report brung versus listening to some of them, and what they're saying is matching it. Some buildings have period of time. For instance, a building of Bluffton High School, in particularly. How can we have two or three maintenance people run that whole building in one night? And when you I just want to use a different school, that's a lot of building for 2 or 3 people. And then also at a certain period of time, they've been told that they have to get out the clock because after a certain period of time, they can't get paid. So there's some underlying issues going on that we're not discussing here that we're far removed from, and 2, that in order for the actual cleaning to be done in our buildings the right way, and also treat people at what their worth is, that we have to get a handle on. So I'm very I think this is something that the board does need to discuss, because one, we're far removed from it, and also stuff that Mr. Campbell has outlined. I'll leave it there.
You can see feedback. Okay. I guess that was it for the questions. I don't see anybody else. Ms. Fidrich, did I miss you? Did you? Okay, good.
Thank you. I'm sorry,
Oh.
what last name is it? Manager?
Also in terms of what I brought is the
The
first,
teacher thing?
the teachers as well. Also, the teachers have also said different things like, I've had work orders in for months to get certain air fixed. I have work orders for, these are things that we need to know because, for instance, I use my mother. My mother had asthma. My mother had diabetes. When she worked in a building that had mold and had no heat, that affected her living and then how she moved on a day-to-day basis, and how for her wheezing and all that. If she's in a room full of mold and it's hot and she can't breathe and you got her in that classroom, imagine when we have teachers in that classroom under that same situation and we're asking them to perform, and we're not getting them what they need. So, and these are situations that are taking place that it cannot be ignored. If we're talking about test scores and we're talking about giving students the best, we have to give the students and teachers the best work environment as well. That's a part of the mental health component that we talk about from time to time. So that's why it is very important that we get the feedback, not just from administrators, but also teachers in the building.
And that's why I do think that they said it was in leave these in the classroom, right? So maybe as part of the next 6 months thing, we have the customer service thing, we could kind of get an idea of how these, how many of these are we're getting back, how teachers are using them, et cetera. I think that might give us an idea to make sure that these are actually getting into the classroom and teachers are having an opportunity to be heard if they're having problems.
And then my question would be, well, who do those go to? Exactly, who do those go to?
We don't track that right now. May I interject?
Sure, yes, sir.
We don't track those right now, but I know they're getting out there. I've had people come to me, my workers come to me and say, hey, Ed, I need more cards. I had one plumber, we're turning the faucets, the fountains back on in the pre-K room, just because we've been instructed to, it's safe to do now. And so he's leaving one in every room where there isn't a teacher present, letting them know we turned your fountain back on. And, so you're free to use it. So I know they're getting out there. So far, I haven't received any responses. I've left a few in the rooms myself. I delivered, an air purifying machine. It was left at ECC. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I left a card just so the teacher knew this machine's here. You told me to leave it here. Took a picture of it. Just wanted to make sure because this is a $500 machine. So I followed up, but so far I have not received anything on this response email. So,
Well, actually, that was my question. My question was also basically when they file those email responses come to you.
they go to my admin, they go to me, they go to assistant director. So we don't want to lose them.
Right.
Just like a suggestion box. You don't want the suggestion box sitting over here and nobody opens it.
Right.
Worst thing that can happen.
Right. So would that be the same thing for custodians as well? They use that same?
I think the custodians use the report card.
Yeah, they're using their own.
They're using their report.
They're a separate entity, so I can't
Right.
They're
blur
a
the
separate
lines.
company.
And see, that goes back to the being far removed, because once again, if you have teachers saying that their room, their trash hadn't been taken out for 3 days. I got teachers telling me after the last 3 days, I took my trash out. My trash can hadn't been touched. So once again, we have no system that does that. So, yeah. Over.
I a question. I hope we have something in place for a classroom teacher. That's the end of my heart. I mean, if my trash is exposed 3 days in a row, something's got to be done. I mean, even if it's just a relationship between the teacher and the on-site custodian. But my question is about the survey. Are we encouraging the administrators to invest in the opinions of the teachers and the staff before they fill out that survey and send back to us? I mean, 97% of checking, yeah. I mean, that's good, but it's not as good as I'm looking at my classroom teachers who responded, and this is what I got.
Yeah. So I would say we do not give any directions or oversight into how.
Okay.
I would say, I'm hearing the conversation in the past. Recently, we did some teacher surveys along with principal surveys, so we could do
those were done with the teacher groups. So we can do those as well to get that teacher voice in there. I think Ms. Boatwright said, as far as following up on how well these cards are being used, that's a new system. We'll see if teachers feel like those are worthwhile and things of that nature. So those are all things that we can do.
I just want teachers to have it input. I just want, you
I think
know,
that's the
like, I've got a vested interest in understanding that the classroom teacher is being spoken for.
Right.
Because, you know, sometimes, you know, what they say is not the same thing that administrator says. That administrator got two things involved when he says something. So that he's managing his school properly and that things are being taken care of and that the classrooms are nice and clean. And if you ask those teachers, you might get a slightly different opinion.
So if you remember last time, it was kind of surprising. The teacher and principal surveys were very close to each other. The principals were actually harsher than the teachers. But they were extremely, there wasn't enough
I'd
variance.
like to see just the same.
We'll do that again, yeah. That we can do that again.
I don't want you to get down there, but I'd like the administrators to get down there. So they got a team there too. That's corresponding, you know?
Well, and if I can, address like the work order issue, if the trash isn't taken out, the trash isn't taken out. That's something that teachers are hearing. I mean, and then they can put in a work order. We ask them to so that we have a track of that so we can see if there's something repetitive going on, if there's a problem. And there have been buildings where that is how we've picked up a problem that we need our custodial managers to address, is that we're getting continuous work order requests from classrooms that there are problems. And that's also coming out in these meetings when the principals are meeting with their custodial managers. So that system, I do feel it is working, and that can be, and that's how things like that are being addressed. So, and of course, not maybe in all, some schools may be doing it better than others, but the model is working in places.
Yes, I understand the model is a good model, but I can see teachers not being represented in that model. And meet with the principal and the custodial managers and they say what they see or think. And, you know, I still don't see exactly the teacher's comments. The teacher might never fill out a work order for taking the trash out.
They just take the trash out.
They just take the trash out and cover it all. Or ask the custodian, hey, somehow you missed the trash. And I'm nice and I'm generous. I'm just saying, can you take it out for me later on during the day? And this might happen over and over. It might become a consistent mindset of that classroom teacher, but never to vet it any further than that. The administrator might very well think everything is fine. If they don't have that discussion, and I'm encouraging the thing you have in place to put them in conversation about their building. You know, because that's where the bottom line is. How happy is that classroom teacher with the cleanliness of that building? That's how happy the students are gonna be. And I don't care what the administrators say or the custodians say, that's the bottom line. Unless they have some concrete input, I don't think, we can really, say that we're doing justice to their cause. That's my take on it. So I
There's no teacher group here.
well, I'm from a pro students group, and I was teacher to the first line of 5.
But just on the other flip side, I have never known a group of teachers that don't voice that to their administration.
Well,
they certainly
depends.
I don't want to think that our teachers don't have a backbone and don't say anything, because surely they do. I mean, I'm just putting it out there, believe me.
I agree with some of us will voice their opinion.
Right, but not all.
But
No.
I guarantee the majority of us, especially the young ones, we're not gonna say anything except to you. Maybe complain to you, but other teachers next to a teacher. Trash is bad, look at this room. But they're not gonna say it to the authority. They're not they're not there all the time. So I want to help them.
Do you have another comment?
Well, I was gonna say, even listening to, Mr. Outing, I think this is a conversation that we really need to be a deep dive, and I think that this is a conversation that we possibly need to have with Dr. Rodriguez in an executive session, because I think that there's some other underlying things that need to be talked about. So, I in terms of, even in terms of staff, dealing with this, and what really is the, I would say that it's deeper things that need to be, I believe that need to be looked at and possibly need to be discussed in the executive session in terms of this contract, in terms of the executive session, with the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Major. Is it Major or Majors?
Majors.
Yeah, Ms. Majors. Appreciate it. All right, and then facility use. No, still. Okay. Yeah. Just for those who joined us late, we've added the facilities use report, which is down at the bottom, up to the agenda, since all the facility people are here currently, so.
All right, perfect. So this is the 7.7, so.
Did the community have, was it overnight? Because we
We
added,
made a motion before that with you.
right, but even if you made a motion, in terms of what you're discussing,
It was already on the agenda. You just asked to move it above, but it was already placed
Yeah,
on
it's
the
on the
agenda.
agenda. It's just,
Okay.
we just moved it up so that we could kind of keep facilities grouped as one group.
gotcha. Thank you, thanks for clarity.
Yep, no worries. All right, Ms. Majors.
Okay, so we are reviewing 7.7. This is our facilities use structure. The
It
policy,
says PE.
Yeah, we gotta change that. I got it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's just, someone's gonna point that out.
Yeah, I got it.
The policy we're referring to is in our AR regulations. What we've included in this presentation are samples of our short-term lease forms, our long-term amendments, our rules and regs governing use of our school facilities, as well as the annual report. Please note that the last report we presented was for FY20, so this one.
It's on the phone.
Oh, yeah, I don't see, it's not the board, I don't see that
It
either.
wasn't in board docs earlier, so I didn't know if there was a presentation. So everyone like looking.
Well, are we able to talk, I was gonna say,
Do you need us to stop, or can you just kind of?
would you like Ed to talk about the maintenance items, which is the next item?
Sure.
Is that okay? We'll wait for them. Or just how well we kind of already talked about it. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Randy pretty much covered everything.
So we're going back to the maintenance report, the new feedback system.
Yes, the next item, we kind of got that's.
I thought that was all lumped in.
It kind of is, so I don't know if there's anything other questions you had from Mr. Miller while it's here.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions about the maintenance feedback process?
Oh, yes, I do. Actually, my question is, what do we provide for ABM as a district?
Me monetarily?
As vehicles, uniforms, any of that, what in terms of that, what do we give ABM?
So I'll do it on the opposite way. ABM is responsible for all labor and PPE. So anything beyond labor and PPE.
Managers.
Well, so I mean, all labor.
Right.
And any PPE for you supply your manager vehicles.
Right.
But all of the vehicles, equipment purchases used in maintenance are all the responsibility of the district.
So basically, they use our vehicles, they use our gas,
Yes.
and everything else.
Yes.
Well, see, once again, that is the concern. That's a concern for me, because of the fact that if we are providing them this, and the only thing they're providing us is actual bodies, we can do it on our own. So why are we allowing a company to come in and just bring some people here, and then I guess it just lighten up the liability? I mean, my question is, what are we really getting that the Beaufort County School District cannot do themselves? I mean, I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you ask me, in terms of the vehicle, the tools, how you get around, those are the most expensive things. So if we're giving them the heartbeat, the heart's not going without the body, then why are we subcontracting them out? Who is really benefiting from it?
I'm not sure if that fall under this or under finance or contracts or procurement. I don't know. Because what you're basically saying is, why don't we stop contracting out our maintenance services and bring them in-house? Which is clearly not something we can do at the moment. I'm trying to figure out what the next conversation point would be.
I mean, but that's a part of this conversation right here. Because I'm asking, what are we really getting from these services that we're contracting out? And I'm understanding, and I'm listening to the reports, and I'm wondering, could this not be done in-house, and could we not do this as a district? I mean, like, is the juice worth the squeeze?
So historically, that would be, in my opinion, that would be a topic to ask for the history of why we transitioned from in-house to outsourcing, right?
Right.
And so I don't think that's under the purview of what we're doing today, but you have mentioned that for the last 3 years.
4 times, yeah.
Several times. So why don't we add that as, share with us how it was done before. It certainly involved HR because of employment of people and benefits and salary and everything. It is a much more comprehensive conversation, but it'd be very important to know the history of why it was transitioned to an outsourcing with contracting with it, But I don't think that's under this report.
No,
but you should ask that for future topics.
and Earl Campbell has his hand up. I think he might have something to add.
Sure.
Mr. Campbell?
Well, I just want to say that I'm listening to the questions. Some of these questions keep asking over and over again. The reason why the district went from in-house to contracting out to companies is because of benefits and the salaries. And most large organizations, that's what they do. So if you don't want to do that, then we need to talk about going back to in-house. But we keep asking the same question over and over again. Why do we do it?
Well, obviously I'm not getting the answer. So that's why I'm asking. And I think that we need to discuss it as a board. So yeah, I'll go ahead and say it's me who's asking it. And I'm asking it for a reason. Because I want clarity in it. And I know the community is what I'm getting from the community as well. So that's why I'm asking it. It's my job. Thank you.
Yeah, so Mr. Smith, I think when we get to the end of the agenda and it says future topics, you should bring that up.
No problem.
Yeah, okay. All right. So back to
It's here, and Molly's gonna bring hard copies for
Okay.
this, but it is in Word docs for those of you.
okay, perfect. Ms. Mason, do you mind continuing?
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to review facilities use. For providing the committee with the documents that are currently in place and also the facilities use annual report, which we are reporting on FY21, which was the period of 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2021. Just quickly want to review that all of our lessees that do use our facilities are required to sign a facilities use contract or complete an MOU. In addition to that, they are required to sign off on a rules and regulations governing use of school facilities, which is part of this packet. An example of that is part of this packet as well. Lessees are also required to provide insurance for while using our facilities. The policy requires general liability insurance in the amount of $1 million for general liability coverage. And then there's an additional participants coverage that is required as well at $25,000 per occurrence for athletic events. We do use FS Direct, which is a school dude module to put events in. We ask schools to do that to try to capture events that are going on in the district and our facilities. So the next page, we can go to the next, the first page you're gonna come to after your cover page is just an example of the short-term lease. This is a standard plug-and-play document that schools do have a copy of. They're provided with that. And so obviously you can see going through this that as they get in contact with leasees, they go through and they fill out this information from the start of the contract date all the way down to the principal information, the leasing information, as well as the fee charges.
So I have a question. This PE is not what we're currently using. So, and I don't develop, so it's the same thing. So it is a 7, develop and consistently administer. So it's the same as our operational.
This needs to be updated.
Right. But it's got different bullet points. Fee structure that is consistently applied. And I have to say, because we didn't have this in advance. Would it be possible to bring this back to the next meeting? You don't need this this month, do you? Because this is not the right PE, the right information. I think this generates a lot of questions.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of concerned that we should do it and have the right documents. Does anybody disagree with me? I'm open for disagreement. Okay, so if you don't mind, then we'll just put that off till next. And maybe we could do, Mr. Audien, as our next facilities focus meeting, we can do that. Okay.
Okay, I will not continue further.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking, I'm like, wait.
No worries, that's fine. You gotta be right then wrong.
Yeah, and I don't want to like skip through it and miss something, because I know that's an issue.
All right, perfect.
Okay. So we will postpone that to our next meeting, which means we are on to our next agenda item. Which is, thank you guys both.
Thank you.
Oh, the nepotism AR.
Okay.
So do you want to present anything? And this is my agenda issue, so I don't know if you want to present or just answer questions or.
No, I don't want to present. This is yours.
This is my deal.
Yeah, yours to talk about, I guess, so I'm here to do whatever.
Okay, then with your permission, I'm gonna give why I brought this to the meeting and why I'm kind of, and I have a printout that Molly handed out on the school nepotism policy. This is an issue that has come to my attention because it's affecting one of my schools in a big way. We have 2 married teachers, and both at Hilton Head High, who one is being asked to leave the school. So I started looking into this, and if you look at that AR, essentially what it says is that teachers can teach in the same school with, sorry, I should get it up here again, with permission from the superintendent. The superintendent is not really interested in making a case-by-case exception on this, which I understand why. It's kind of an odd, in my opinion, an odd caveat to this. So I started looking into it. And basically what I found, and Wendy, I saw you checking it. Am I right in my assessment of the state?
I was looking at the State Ethics Act.
Yeah.
Because we need to update Roman numeral 2A about immediate family.
Right. So if you look at the state, what the state does provides for nepotism. I put that at the top. And that is what most districts kind of vary on. They sort of stay within that same realm. And sorry, I'm trying to get my notes up here.
They're going from the Ethics Act.
Right, and they'll add a little bit here and there. We actually added a whole nother level of nepotism in saying that not only could they not be supervised, which is what most people look at with the nepotism policy, you can't have an immediate family member supervising another immediate family member. They're also saying they can't be in the same building. And again, my parents are married teachers, so this would have directly impacted them. And I feel that personally, I'll say a couple of things about it, and then I would just want to hear some feedback from the board. One, I think this undercuts the professionalism of teachers to say that you can't even be in the same building. 2, it's not really nepotism, because if you're not in charge of hiring, firing, compensation, benefits, et cetera, this is basically a behavioral issue. it's going to cost us teachers. It's going to cost us money because in this one specific example, we're going to have to retrain because these teachers are AP certified. It is, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second here. Shoot. I have more stand by, hold on, it's going to come right back. I think it's moderately discriminatory in that it discriminates based on marital status, because as I am understanding this, and when you tell me if I'm wrong, if someone is in a committed relationship, engaged, living together, have been together for 20 years, this would not apply to them. It only applies if they become married. In addition to which, we don't have any way to consistently enforce this. Because if someone were to become, according to the state, I believe, Wendy, brother-in-law, son-in-law, et cetera, is now, so basically staff would have to update us if someone married another teacher in the building. What I have been told is that there are several other instances of family members work in the same building that just don't come to light. So I don't think we have a way to enforce it. So it becomes very spotty. So if you want to look through, I will say I found one other district in South Carolina, Lexington one, that has a similar policy that does not allow family members in the same building.
Did they request permission from the superintendent?
Nope. They have a provision that they can do extracurriculars. So that I did put that in red at the bottom because I have full disclosure, there is another district that does it like this. But basically we're an outlier in doing this. And I think fundamentally in a time of acute teacher shortages, having to move teachers around or having teachers leave and go to private schools or having teachers leave and go to other districts so that they can teach in the same building if that's convenient for them. On Hilton Head, if you have a teacher who teaches something and there's not something that they have to leave Hilton Head, if they get sent to Battery Creek where there's an opening for, say, a Spanish high school teacher or something, that could be a substantial detriment. So to me, I don't see the advantage. It's going to hurt us in the short term. I think it goes to teacher professionalism, and I'd like to see if the board has any stomach to take on this AR and ask the superintendent to look at his nepotism. And ask the superintendent or Ms. Walton to look at whether or not it's still a valid category. Mr. Campbell?
First of all, I think the state statutes cover almost everything that has to be covered, except for the definition of what we define as relatives. And our particular policy has some history that Allison Robin can speak to a degree. But I mean, if we follow the state rules and then make the necessary adjustments that we would have to make in some cases, I don't think we really need to vet the policy in any degree, because we already empowered the superintendent to follow the state rules, and those regulations kind of cover who can be supervised by whom and districts, who we can hire and how we hire. And that teacher being married in the same school, I don't think the state has a restrictive clause and then there are regulations for that.
No, but we do.
But we do.
Yeah, but we do. That's what I mean. But if we follow the state rules, then we have to allow those.
Yeah, if we follow the state rules, they would be in the same building.
But I don't know the history, maybe y'all could tell me the history, maybe not, but I know when these things started changing. Why? I don't know. And most recently, over the last few years, some more things to cause some changes, but that was different. And the state did cover that in its regulations.
Because they were supervisory.
Right. So, I looked at all your district policies there, and every district, basically alluded to the state. Some of them were a little bit specific, more specific than they had to be. The state laws, and they may be antiquated because, the state law does include common law marriage.
So would you then be in support of the AR continuing to forbid teachers from being in the same building? Or I wasn't sure if you like the AR as it is, or if you would support.
I would
changing
like
it.
the adjustment, to reflect the state rules.
Okay, because what the motion I would like to make, and I'll get to you, Mr. Smith, in just a second, is, to strike the portion where two teachers cannot teach in the same building.
Yeah, I think that was somewhat some personal issues there. Now it is for you, but let's go back to the state structure and let's allow the state to at least direct that for now.
Ms. Fidrich?
I would very much like to hear what, from an HR point of view, some of the thoughts, whether it's will there be history behind it, or what your thoughts are on it.
Well, it's the history behind what's in here. HR didn't insist that it would be.
Do you insist?
Did not.
Do not, okay.
I think you have to go to the building level itself and look at the manager of the building in terms of married people being in their building. They should still have the right to say yes or no, because it's difficult to manage two married people. So that would totally be left at the building level, I think, because I'm not there, you're not there. And whenever there's a write-up for the wife, then you got two people you have to be there. And some principals say, I don't care. Some principals say they do. It works when it works, but when it doesn't work, it really doesn't.
Do you have anything to add? And Will, Mr. Shoulders, we'll get to you in a minute. Mr. Smith has a question or comment.
I would just say that I'm definitely in support of that, because I've ran into that too. As I've had, and I can remember also being in school. Remember having teachers and teachers who were teachers, husbands and wife who were teachers, and I think that it also it tests your ability to be a leader as well. So I see nothing wrong with that. And in terms of what Ms. Walton said, I mean, I do understand that, but I think that us being prejudiced in any form or fashion to a degree, I think is absolutely wrong and shouldn't be tolerated. So I would definitely be in support of that, of striking that, because it should be fair across the board. And we have to put, as long as the husband or wife is not an administrator or an athletic director, something along those lines. Right. So I'm in that. I support that strongly. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Scherbinger?
Thanks. Now we've been around on this nepotism thing, some of us old timers, and I think this was to avoid the appearance of nepotism. And I'm not sure if we've really had a problem with this. And I agree with Mel, maybe just following the state would be the thing to do, but it seems to me this is it's not something that we've really had an issue with. So are you talking about like a couple of teachers, two or four teachers?
It's hard to know, because it's not, I will make one comment, it's not just married teachers. It could be a father and son, it could be a mother and a daughter-in-law, it could be two brothers. And I don't know how we track that, because I don't think we're asking people for their family members when they apply to make sure they're not in the same building.
We do ask that question.
The other thing to consider is how other teachers might feel about that, because there might be a negative impression on the other teachers if there's a married couple that hasn't gotten permission, or all the other possible relationships. I agree with you. You can't track the living together and the engaged or dating, but I just don't see a big problem with the way it's written.
So you support going to the state standard, or you would support leaving in the additional provisions preventing family members from working in the same building?
Well, we're preventing them unless they get permission from the superintendent, and I don't see any problem with that.
That's a great area.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Scrivener, just to be clear, I think that we're contradicting ourselves when we say unless they get written permission from the superintendent, because one, we're saying if you get written permission versus someone who we don't know and who is still doing it and not going to the superintendent, then we're leaving ourselves open, right there. So I think just if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. If we say like you said from the beginning, that you would support Mr. Campbell's in terms of just going with what the state say, that I think that's a much more clearer and less slippery slope.
Well, and I would echo Mr. Smith's sentiments in that I think it puts the superintendent in a bad position, because to deny one and accept another, and it gets to be very sort of hit or miss. And I think as a nepotism policy, it should just be, here are the situations we accept and here are the situations we don't accept. And Mr. Campbell, you agree?
I agree that, yeah, I think the board is letting itself off the hook if we allow the superintendent to make that decision.
Well,
And I think that the state is clear on where it's going with it. And as far as the school administrators managing, that's a part of their job description. They have to be able to manage the personnel that we place there, as long as they're legally placed there. And I think you're really opening up for interpretation, and the superintendent still has the right to manage his people the way he wants to manage them. But to make those decisions, from a personal perspective of the rule says I have to vet it, it's another story. If I got a married couple in the building, they're running the issues, then the superintendent should never have an issue with that. I don't think he needs to give permission for that to happen. I think he can move those people if he feels like it's not successful.
Or there's a problem.
Right, there's a problem. That's what I mean. If it's not a successful relationship, then that's his purview. Without us bringing any rules into the picture. But to say that marriage and you opening yourself up for discriminatory practice and in my mind.
and another reason, that they went that way is for accountability. For instance, you have a girls softball team that goes to Lexington or Kane, and you've got relatives. There's less accountability there when your parents or you're a father, you're a son, or you're an aunt or an uncle. If you're the coach, the head coach, and the assistant coaches, so there's a level of accountability there as well that I think is faltered as well when you have team member or coaches related traveling together as well.
We couldn't have a head coach and assistant coach because they'd be supervisor. You'd have to have co-head coaches.
Right.
Yeah. And what you mean by accountability, I would assume
Well,
that the accountability is the same level. That's what I'm talking about. Then now you're assuming that it won't be the same level of accountability if the person has a position to administer over this team. That's their job. That's what they should be doing. And I don't think you just have to assume that. Well, no, that's what you should expect.
Exactly.
And if it's not happening, then you redirect. That's what you should expect. You're being discriminatory in mindset to say that because I'm with my wife, I'm not going to do my job because she has the softball team I have. And I don't know, I'm going to do my job as the job description says. And for you to assume that and to preclude me from operating like that, that's discriminatory.
As I said earlier, we in HR will follow the HR ARs as prescribed by the superintendent, whatever he wants us to do this with them. They're not our ARs.
So I don't know, Mr. Smith, did you have something else to?
Now,
Sorry, you have to court my eyes.
okay, I was gonna ask you, when you gonna make that motion?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the committee.
Okay.
I I think it has to go, this has to go to the full board, I think, from absolute transparency and accountability. So I guess what I would like to do, can I make a motion as chair?
You can pass it, I believe.
I actually think committees are small boards, and I actually think you can.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
But,
Yes.
I mean, but, you know, our practice has been that you.
Okay, so what I would like to make, I think, if you give me feedback on this, is that we bring to the full board a motion requesting the superintendent review AR or nepotism AR, I forget what the number is, sorry, Robin, I don't have it.
HRS 6.
HRS 6.
Staff ethics, HRS 6.
To bring it into compliance, so compliance is the wrong word, to bring it into line with the state standard, does that sound right, Wendy? It's not, we're not out of compliance.
We're not out of compliance. I thought that what you were concerned about was 2C. I thought in the staff ethics, I thought that was the part that bothered you and.
But I think if you bring it up to state standards, then that would just take care of everything.
Yeah,
To say, yeah. Well, it's at the state standards. We added additional.
Yeah.
Beyond.
So we
Beyond
were
the state
concerned
standards. And it's already there. Of the administrator.
Yeah. So it'd be to bring to the full, sorry, do you have a suggestion? Ms.
No,
Kushner?
I'm just trying to get the motion, and a motion
I'm
to bring to
looking at
the full board the
AR HRS-6, section 2. C, section 2C, because that's the one that we have, the administrative buildings.
So we want to review that, that's what you're.
Yes, I basically want the board to take a look at
It would
it.
be the whole thing, because we know this has to be. This is a much more narrow definition than the state uses, right?
That's
For
right.
immediate, you know,
So just say section 2, take the C off.
So I looked at the statute. Yeah, you're right.
So bring to the full board, review. What are we saying here? Let's someone give us some advice on this, because we're asking the board to take a look at it and see if we want it to follow the state standards.
But the superintendent, you're requesting that the superintendent review
Yes.
it.
Right.
Okay.
Because he develops the.
We have so far.
You develop
motion to bring to the full board review of AR HRS-6.2.
Section 2, to request the superintendent to review, oh gosh.
To review the AR number into that, to reflect the state standards.
I think reflect's a good word, to reflect state standards. But we could just leave it at to review.
For the review.
To review.
To review.
Yes.
I think we'll have that discussion.
That's custody, yeah.
Might pull some of the things that we've got in there all the time.
Okay, so once again, I've made a mess of a motion. What have you got, Robin?
Motion to bring to full board review of AR HRS-6.2 to request the superintendent to review.
And then we'll just have the discussion. Okay?
Second.
I'll second it.
Call for a vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Yeah, so that has to change. There's either.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me bring this to the committee's attention. Ms. Walton, did you have any update on the compensation analysis? I know you said it might not be ready yet, or where we're at, or what the timeline might be.
We have a timeline. And then we'll let Dale copy the timeline and I'll walk you through where we are.
Yeah, you know, when we took on this project in November, the timeline was established. So the final report is going to be submitted to the superintendent on July 1st. There's a draft coming out on June 1st. The next big event that's taking place is going to happen on May 31st, where they're going to provide a draft of the benchmarks and different models that they're going to recommend. April 22nd is their deadline for positions in pay plans as well that we're going to review. So we'll probably have better numbers at that time is what we're looking at as far as cost. Like I said, the draft report is due June 1st, with the final report to the superintendent on July 1st.
You said May 31st draft with benchmarks. Did you mean March 31st?
March 31st, yes. March 31st is the benchmark in the models. April is the pay plans and positions. May 20th as well, they're going to share the job descriptions with us. They're finalizing and doing quality control checks on all the job descriptions right now. We're going to get those in May. And then, of course, the draft report and the final report July 1st.
Okay, Ms. Fidrich?
Dale, back in November, I was thinking that it was going to be 6 months, and it might, and I guess I was assuming that the final report would be due in 6 months. For some reason, that number stuck in my head. So what you're saying that with this timeline, it will not be within this budget period. It will not be in this fiscal year, so we can't effect any changes based on this report for this upcoming budget, because the budget, I think, is going to be certified by
Sometime in May, right?
May, June. So this will be,
Yeah, I know that finance is aware. I don't know how they are planning for this, or how the superintendent's planning for this. Because we have done in the past, made the change in December with retros back to July 1st as well. So even though it may not be ready or the report might not be ready, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure if Alice has any information on funding, because I know we've talked to finance about the compensation study, and that needs to be on the radar as well. I know that she asked, what do you think it's going to cost? And I think we've come to a concession. It's probably going to be about $5 to $6 million if you're going to do it correctly.
if we take the recommendations for bumping all the pay.
All at one time,
We already know what the compensation study is,
Yeah,
just to clarify.
yeah.
So you've already thrown that number out there because you've gotten some kind of draft information from them about that? You've gotten the ballpark figure?
No, that comes to me.
I haven't seen anything from finance or the superintendent. I know they're working on the budget now, so if that's a line item, I don't know.
No, I'm sorry, that's not what I was asking.
How do you arrive at that 5-6 million?
Without the study being done.
Comparatively to the study they did in Fort.
Yeah,
They did a study last year in Fort.
yeah, exactly.
It's relative. It's just an estimate, it's not anything.
Yeah, that's what we're expecting.
Where their pay level was, how much is something, it's relative, the experience, factor,
Exactly.
all that kind of stuff, yeah.
And this is gonna cover everybody but teachers, right? Like bus
Correct.
drivers and.
No, bus. Yeah, well, yeah, because right now the state legislature has approved the bus drivers for 5% for next year.
Right.
So there hasn't been any discussion, about any additional on the bus drivers at this point, but I know that they're getting a 5% increase next year.
It's been passed, I thought the House sent it to the Senate, right? Mayor President.
Right, that
I
hasn't
think it's been
been
passed yet.
Not in the fact.
It's still in the works.
Right.
But things like instructional teachers, not teachers, but instructional.
Classified staff, paraprofessionals. They're also looking at the administrative staff as well. Professional licensed staff, OTs, PTs, social workers, nurses.
Great.
So they're looking at those as well.
It's gonna be hard to find retroactive $5 to $6 million, isn't it?
I think it's just having a conversation you need to have with finance to see where they're at.
So, I have one last question. So, Mr. Cropper, when this company was chosen to provide this compensation analysis, was the expectation that the information would be here before our final budget process was completed? Because
I don't think so.
No. So when you
Yeah,
guys.
we never had that conversation.
Okay, so then I'm probably wrong in recalling that it said it'd be 6 months. So I was assuming then November to May, then perfect lining right up there with the budget conversations. So am I wrong remembering 6 months?
I don't think there was ever a 6 month.
Okay.
I think
All
I
right.
might have heard, it usually takes 6 to 8 months.
Maybe that's what I heard. Okay. All right.
Because when did we start this? Just out of curiosity, how long has it taken?
We started
Was it more in
in
November,
November.
right?
So we started in November.
We had our kickoff meeting November 16th. And right after that, they started with the job content questionnaire, all the employees. They started the MIPs with the leadership, with the administrative staff.
I just need a whole, I want a dictionary with like all
Yeah.
that educational people.
I'll look that up. I'll look that up and I'll.
No worries, I was just, it
Yeah.
did not, I was just.
It was a survey that all the
The manager.
managers said, and if they had any concerns about positions, recommendations, changes, and those kind of things, they were sent a questionnaire about those issues as well.
Mr. Smith, you have a question?
In terms of, and what exactly is, the report again?
The final report,
Right.
July 1st.
Oh, no, then what is this report all on? Just,
All salaries, pay plans, recommendations for increases, recommendations for maybe collapsing positions and those types of things as well.
right, I'm just curious about tuning, but also, those dates that you said this, I mean, those dates that you referred to at the beginning of the meeting, at the beginning of your presentation, would you send that to the board in an email? Because I believe in having it in black and white, just because this is, for instance, that won't happen like how Mrs. Fidrich said she remembers 6 months. And so that if we have it in black and white, we can refer back to that date of what you said, of the dates that you said that it would be out. So would you mind just, you gave us some dates a few minutes ago. Would you mind emailing those dates to us?
We'll get you some dates, Mr.
But he just gave us some dates.
Yeah, we'll get you dates.
Yeah,
That's
she'll
his
get that.
work calendar. That's his personal calendar. We'll get you the dates.
Okay, in terms of date, he just gave us, you just wrote down some dates.
Yeah, so I have March 31st draft with benchmark and models, April 22nd positions and plate plans, May 20th, job descriptions.
Right,
And then, the draft, June 1st, and the final report, July 1st.
right. And so I'm just asking that he would email those dates right there to us. So that the BOE, because the board can have it, and so that we can reflect back to those dates in terms of moving forward, so that we have something that when we forget, we can go back. I think those are very important things.
And I wouldn't hold up to these dates exactly, because when you email them, they'll have the right, have the right dates down to make sure because I do think it's good to follow. I'm confused as to how we need to increase people's salary, we got legislation.
Well, and that may be true, however, I do believe that having a date and having something in black and white, it not only does it help you remember, but it lets you know wherever you're correct, coming in and keep coming in in a meeting and quarterbacking things out, that's not conducive for everyone, because I do kind of remember that month that Mrs. Fitz was talking about, but I didn't think that, obviously it's not, something concrete that we can all go off, because once again, it's not in writing. So I do believe in it. I was taught in school, if it's not in black and white, sometimes it does not matter. So I believe in that.
And I
go
agree.
back to my notes. So.
My point was just that you might come up with different dates
Right.
from what I said, just
Right.
because when you're talking and you're
Right.
kind of looking at your calendar versus when
Right.
you sit down and make an official document in
Gotcha.
black and white.
Right. Thank you.
So I might have even written the dates down wrong. I was kind of writing my notes.
The plan is what we intended to do with it, what's the purpose of the study in the first place, and how we can execute it, how we can best execute. That's the real point. And to speak to your estimate, it's using of positions and all a part of that overall plan, of that discussion been made.
They're gonna make those type of recommendations in their final report. They're gonna look at, because there are certain, for instance, an admin associate and an admin assistant. They sit at the same desk at the high school. One's paid on a level 101 and one's paid on a level 106. So those are kind of disparities we're gonna try to clean up and try to merge into a more comprehensive position for the job description as well.
Thank you very much.
I'll just say, in terms of it, I am disappointed in the time frame that we are going to get that information, especially going through what we're going through right now as a district and the time of the, when we're about to do the budget and not having information. I think that information is very important and it's critical in having to move forward. But yeah, so I'll just say, we're looking forward to see if we can get any quicker.
In reality, we just start November. So with a 6-month deadline, that puts you into April. So that's well after the certification of the budget as well. And for them to do a salary study, comprehensive, in 90 days is not realistic.
Right. And we want it to be done correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think,
You don't promise what you can't keep.
Exactly.
I have a bit of work. I think we have a motion on that facilities report to bring to the board, don't we? Don't we, Ron? We do. Or should I just bring it up further?
The facilities use report?
No, the maintenance.
The maintenance.
Do we need to do a motion or can I just bring that up in my?
I'm moving the maintenance report.
To accept that and move it to the full board.
Yes, thank you. All in favor? It just occurred to me. Thank you both for coming and sitting and patiently through all the facilities discussion, and I really appreciate both the information and the update on the compensation. And good luck in all your future hiring endeavors.
We don't need.
You need more than luck.
I'm ready for Mr. Person.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Person, the register. Again.
Mr. Grissom, thank you so much.
How you guys doing?
So excited to hear about.
I'm gonna sit back over here.
Mr. Griffin's going to give the committee an update on some of the training initiatives for our SROs and SSOs.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, the first thing we've done since the board meeting, on March the 7th, we did the training with Swinton. We had all the SROs, all the security department from Guard 1 and Coastal attend threat assessment training. That's when when something happens in the school, whether it be a threat or a weapon, the team gets together and pretty much does an evaluation of that student. So it's a team. So we've included the SROs and already been a part of that team. And now we've added the security part of it for the elementaries as a part of it.
Is that the SSOs?
Yes. So that's what we did on March the 7th. Unfortunately, on that day, we had to take them all out of the schools. So there was no security in the schools that day to do this training. It was an all-day thing. So again, that was on March the 7th.
So you can advertise that.
No, nobody knew. So
It was excellent training.
yeah, it was really good training. Yeah, and Dr. Reeves, she's a nationally known instructor for that, and she was here to do that for the security company. The next thing we did was on March 18th, which was, thank God, it was no kids were in school that day, but it was Dr. White did the communication strategies for students with disabilities. It was like a 4-hour course she did in the morning. Again, that was all the securities, all the SROs throughout the district.
And Ginger Abbott was there, the autism specialist.
Yeah, she helped conduct the class. In the afternoon, we did I had the fire department do Stop the Bleed. They did all kinds of, a whole list of different first aid. I got a whole list here for you. They spent the whole afternoon doing the first aid and fire drills and fire code safety issues with the security company. So that was all day on the 18th. So the next thing we have scheduled, which I'm kind of excited about, and I've been working with Derek Skaggs on, that's the Breaking the Cycle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that at all. It's a 5-day course. I actually brought you guys.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Take a look at it. It's something that's going to be.
Mr. Smith will want one. Yeah. Well, that's wrong.
Anyway, this is a 5-day course, but he's going to lower it down to probably a 2-day course. And that's what we're going to do before school starts, probably in August. In addition, we're still trying to schedule the CPI training for the security course. And
So that's not, that's not part of their CPIs, not part
they're not CPI certified now.
Okay.
So we have instructors here. It's like a 12-hour course that will make them CPI certified.
Okay.
So yeah, that's coming up. Probably, we're hoping to do that over spring break. That's the next time they're off.
Okay. Is that going to be part of their requirement in the future?
Yes.
So, but I mean, it's already, halfway, 3/4 of the way through the year. Will be in the beginning next
Yeah,
time?
we'll do all this again come the week before school starts. The problem we're gonna have with the security company is that the turnover.
Yeah,
Hopefully that doesn't happen too bad, but yeah, we're gonna do this again in August.
yeah. Well, and who keeps track of what their training they've gone through?
Roger, he's in charge of all their training.
The gentleman that spoke that night, he came.
He was there, right, correct.
Right, okay, good. Just because that CPI is like one of the first things they ask when you're a student with special needs, whether or not you're CPI trained and how you've dealt with students.
Right, I'm having a real hard time scheduling that, only because of conflicting schedules, and right now it's probably gonna have to happen over spring break.
Yeah.
It's gonna be probably a 2-day course, it's 12 hours, so
Yeah.
probably a day and a half.
Yeah,
And Dr. Rodriguez, I'm in favor of not pulling them out of the schools to do
Yeah.
that, so that's gonna be over spring break or next summer, depending on how we can schedule this.
And with our new security guards, Dave and I attended their orientation. We reviewed the student code of conduct with them. We talked about their role in the school as being a positive role model, being a friend, and being there for the kids.
I just think this understanding trauma and this is so great. Sorry, no, we got comment.
This is for all of the staff and security or just
He actually does a class for the entire staff. That's the full 5-day course. He's gonna lower it to probably 2, maybe 3 days for law enforcement and security. Two days of this course strictly deals with like classroom type stuff.
Will we do it for classroom teachers?
He's doing, he's been going to schools, yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to speak for him. I know he's done it a couple of times. I don't know what the plan is just quite for him.
That's what
But I know he's in the process of doing that.
The entire district gonna be educated in the same manner as.
I don't want to speak for him or anybody else. I think so, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, your security.
Well, yeah.
But the whole district security, how well.
This is student services.
I tell you what, when I leave here, I'll call Derek and ask you what the plan is to get everybody in the district trained with this. I think, I know he's in the process of doing it.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking you is because of the process. I mean,
Yeah.
our process that she just mentioned, the fact that, the security, elementary security are being taught a kind of climate and culture thing. And that's important as we grow. I mean, like you say, they change over here and there, every switch. We gotta set something up where they come and fit into our system.
Right.
Now we train them, but we gotta have our system in place. These things are components of that.
I will get you the exact answer as far as the schedule is.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I just plan to see.
Well, I was like, this is what I'm really excited about seeing, making sure. I met one of the SSOs at Hilton Head. He's awesome. He is,
One, yeah, there's a couple
Hilton
of,
Head,
he's really engaged and, yeah.
fabulous guy.
Yeah.
Very excited to have him on board. But I do think it's good to be able to tell the public, like they're getting training in trauma sensitive schools, that this is not just a law enforcement action.
Right.
Especially in light of what happened. I just think this will really give parents some confidence in what the district's doing. So this looks fantastic. And I agree with Mel. I think it'd be nice to have everybody on the same page.
Right.
Yeah, this is for sure. Very good.
That was a whirlwind update.
Yeah, well, I mean, short and simple. I wish I could. I actually brought all 5 copies. One more.
I gave one to.
That's the only, I gave everybody a copy already of that.
Take it, you go.
But it's your copy.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
I bet she knows what's copy.
Okay, well, Mr. Grissom, thank you so much for coming in, because I do want to be able to take this out in the community and let them know that we are going above and beyond what is required and doing what I think is really important to bring these groups in.
Okay.
So, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you guys.
Also appreciate the addition to
Sure
it.
is.
Okay, see you guys.
On that topic, I'll say Derek Stanley has been wonderful.
Yes, he has.
We just gonna do what.
Yeah, he's a good student.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is.
Yeah. Did you do?
Oh, interesting.
His calendar. Yeah, he was.
Did he give anything written down?
Oh, interesting. He did also mention that they recently completed a threat assessment training and a communication strategy training that specifically dealt with special needs and autism.
Okay, thank you. And y'all sending that to the full board?
Yes, I was just gonna bring it out in my report.
I think that
That
should,
document will be in board docs for the full board. So
and I understand that, Mrs. Fisherberry, Mrs. Boatright, I think that that report should be made publicly. And I think that's even put the community on ease. There were various concerns in the community. I think that would be a feasible thing that
Yeah.
when the report comes up, I think it would be better coming from him than versus the board, being that he's giving a correction active review in terms of what has been taking place in terms of safety and security in this district. That's all. That's my opinion.
I think that's normal. Yeah, that can be the answer to board members' questions.
We'll be glad to do that.
We're gonna lose that count, it's all, it's. Okay. Yeah. So do we need a motion or can I just ask, I'll just ask him to be there in the report. Okay, right, sounds good. All right, Candace, or sorry, Dr. Berger, no, thank you. Dr. Berger, good. You want to start?
So, we have been working with the communications department to upgrade our administrative regulations because a lot of them are really, really old and things have changed from having a phone number to call the district and having Facebook and also, part of the website being upgraded. It's absolutely fabulous, but we're trying to improve our ways of how we communicate and how we reach our community, our families, and but also the people in the community that support the district. So that's basically what we were doing in Lease. And Candace, if you just kind of want to give an overview of what we're doing to improve our communication.
Sure. So on Administrative Reg E1, I think it's, this, the main point of this is, direct, timely, specific communications. And we understand that, the more information that we provide to parents and have buy-in, then, they're going to, support the district as well. And I think it's important, the feedback piece is very important. And we do get a lot of feedback through the website in terms of the community comment email that's on there, the report of concern form, and through Facebook. So I think it is important just to always keep those different avenues open.
So I have a question, if you don't mind me interrupting. I couldn't find that form on the web.
Oh, the report of concern?
Yeah, the community.
For the community comments.
Whatever it is, you said that there was like a form that was available. So I see reported concern.
Yeah, that's the form that is available.
But if they have a comment or something that's not a concern, do we have any forms for that, or is it just for?
It's for, you can, we've gotten, that's mostly reported concern, but the, where they can ask questions, the comments, most of them come through the community comments email address that's also on the website. And like, for example, we got the community comments email, there was the PE teacher at Creative Arts, like a parent said how wonderful the PE teacher was and how PE teachers normally don't get a lot of kudos and things like that. So we do get positive stuff through that.
Mr. Gerson?
Oh, I'm just going to report back to you guys' question as far as the training for breaking the cycle. Mr. Skaggs says at least one person, in some cases, two people from every school in the district's already been trained on that. And it's a 5-day course, so as more training requests come in, they'll be doing more. But somebody from every school has already been trained on that. Right?
Yeah, thank you. And you'll be at the next board meeting.
Excellent. So, can I just follow up? Yeah. I think it'd be nice to have like ask a question and not a reported concern for parents, just because reported concern sounds more like a formal complaint. You're initiating a complaint process, whereas it's sort of like, we have to like have a question, have a comment, I don't know, so I guess community comments. How would they know to go to community comments?
I think it's under the contact us. Second. And like I said, we've redone all this on the new website.
This is not the new website?
Oh, no.
Okay, because what I would love to see, we have all these buttons that have like a community button, something that could take them and would open up. This is operational, but a button that opens up and it's like report a concern, ask a question, commend a teacher, send out a positive message. Because this one's a little tough to navigate. Huh? Yeah, complain about a board member.
That's common.
Start the recall process. I'll be hitting that one. Yeah, that's why you down, so I'm gonna get it started. Especially for people that aren't particularly tech savvy, they just hold the webpage and then they see a little thing like, oh, I just wanted to say something nice. You could try to I would love that kind of positivity.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to, say something nice.
I mean, to appreciate her staff. That means a lot.
Yeah, and people generally review things when they have a complaint. Sorry, so
That's okay.
anyone else have any questions or comments on administrative regulation E1?
So then the next one, for the community relations goals and priority objectives, Candace already started explaining this to all of you, but she and her team working very hard to keep the community aware of what we're doing. We have Ron Lopes, our reporter.
Parents love Ron Lopes. He's great.
Yeah, he's great.
They pour all up to all the time. Like,
And our
I saw the
Facebook, I
video.
know, and YouTube, isn't it wonderful?
They're like subscribing to our YouTube channel.
I like her YouTube channel.
Well, what department is he under?
Nine, under communications.
Oh, he's under the communications?
Yeah.
And he's here, he's Howell Taylor District?
He is, but he obviously with his job, he goes everywhere. So he's super efficient, right? So he has an office here and he does, come here, we have meetings and stuff. But like if he has a St. Helena, like he recently did.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and so, he normally will go to the school, film the event, and then right there at the school, edit it, and then get it posted as quick as he can. So he's on the go a lot, but yeah.
But his office is down there in our little area.
Right, yeah, that's more my question.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we don't have things going on in the district every single day, I'm sure.
We what?
So I'm sure we don't have things going on in the district every single day.
He does, actually.
He's on the move.
2 and 3 times a day, actually.
So what do we have going on today in the district?
Today, I don't have his calendar right in front of me, it's up in our office.
Okay.
But yeah, I can tell you, I can probably look at the YouTube page right now.
Well, he'll do things like with a classroom that has like a special project, art project.
Or the music, when they
Yeah.
have special programs and.
The
children
Something
receive
better be
it.
going on. in the
35
city.
schools.
That's weird.
Yeah.
It's always.
Yeah.
But I'm not that I'm surprised, but I have been told how much people love that channel of engagement.
So, for example, he 8 hours ago posted the academic world quest.
Right, that's all right.
5 hours ago, he did the media center mural. I'm not sure what school that is off the top of my head. And then 1 hour ago, he posted a video for the model home fire project.
And that's up there on YouTube right now.
Yeah, so and hopefully on our Facebook page too. Very cool. Yeah, but one of the neat things about him is he functions very much like an actual news reporter. So that's why he's like so efficient at getting stuff knocked out every day like that.
He has a good voice too.
He's got a great voice.
Yeah.
So
So any questions on E2 from anybody?
Then next on E7, we had updated this one earlier last fall, but there's been a change in the structure of our organization. And now the way of requests are coming into the Office of Communications, Brad, the risk manager. And then I received a copy of all of them too, but it's just going to change from, it used to say Jennifer Staten, risk manager.
Is that in line with what other districts do as more
It
communication?
was part of that.
Remember the efficiency study?
And what was that change again now?
So, Mr. Smith, now the FOIA requests, instead of going to Jennifer Staten, they come into the communications department.
Okay, okay, great.
And then I get a copy too. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I see no other questions. Go to E8.
And E8's just tiny. I mean, Candace, I know what you want to say about that. It's just adding your name in there and
Yep, that's pretty
and
much.
adding our policies. And then media relations, it was just adding our policies, and in the Beaufort County School District, there's really not that much change in that either. So, no. But then we have a new one And this one, we worked real closely with Mr. Grissom on this because we want to be prepared in the event that we have a crisis, and we wanted to have some instruction out there and guidelines so everybody would understand. We hope. We don't use this, but we want to be.
This was very much needed, especially, so, everybody under the sun's not gonna be talking to the media. I mean, they still might, but at least this helps a little bit. And then there's a designated area for the media. People can't be filming in the hallways during a crisis situation unless it's approved. And providing, timely updates, as needed as well, and information to the media and the families.
And we're not gonna have reporters running in trying to film our classrooms.
Okay, so I have a question. Prohibit cameras, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I hadn't really thought about this, but I mean, every kid has a phone with a camera. As we're learning, we don't really have a policy on they could be live streaming this.
Sure. But I think it's more of, I'm just trying to think. It's depending on the crisis, obviously, but I do think we need to be able to say, for example, if there's someone that's like injured laying on the floor, we need to be able to say, you can't be filming that. Just more professional. Yeah.
Professional courtesy and respecting the privacy.
But I would also posit that it should not be posted.
That is a good.
Because people will film it, maybe you don't catch them.
Yes.
And then they're posting. We should have the authority to request that those be taken down, I think, or there should be some sort of disciplinary process.
Yeah, is that?
But the thing that's really hard about that is we don't have control over other people.
Exactly. I think that's a slippery slope. I don't think that we have an authority. So, and even talking about it in terms of people not recording, I think we need to be more intentional about who we're talking about specifically. Are we talking about media? Because we can't stop kids and people are going to record regardless. And then, to that degree also, it comes to, I see situations in schools when actually the administrators would say the exact opposite. We want the people to record because the more film and the more people who is recording, that's more film that we can go through and look at it and see from different angles and use to help the district's case or that administrator work out that situation. So I think there's a kind of a gray area here, and there's a slippery slope as well.
Because this is an area more to help Candace and her team in regulating how the media has access in the event we have a crisis.
Okay, so that's
what.
So we can write media if you.
Yeah.
But I think there's a discussion to be had if there's a crisis, because what people do is they buy the video. So if there was a crisis, they can sell it to the media.
There's nothing we can do about that.
I don't know. Is there nothing we can do about that? I don't.
It wouldn't be for you, it'd be hours.
It wouldn't be hurtless for you, like if there's
in
any.
terms of student having access to their campus.
I mean, we can, but the thing is, we have it in our code, there's
that's
a rule, you're not supposed to be using your camera, right? So you could take disciplinary action in that sense, but how do you stop somebody? I mean, that case that just went to the US Supreme Court, that Mahoney case about the cheerleader, have y'all seen it?
I've heard about it.
Okay, so in that case, this cheerleader, she didn't make the team. And she had signed like a team spirit agreement. I'm going to engage in sportsmanlike conduct. I'm going to, and she was very upset that she did not get on the team. And so she posted up on social media, I'm not sure which exact outlet it was. She had, fingers up at the coach, at the school, after this. And it went all the way to the US Supreme Court. And they said that she could do that. I have to give you also.
I followed it.
But that she had the right to engage in that speech, because part of living in the United States is that we do have freedom of speech and we have the right to express ourselves, although we may not always agree. So although we may think that it's very disrespectful in violating school rules, you agree to be team sportsman.
And what is, like, I'm just saying.
But they ruled in favor of that student. They ruled, the United States Supreme Court.
So one thing I'm curious about, like, let's say someone has a medical emergency, they overdose, they're in the hallway, they're having a seizure, someone takes a video and posts it, that's a HIPAA violation.
Oh, sure it is.
But I guess then the student's not a HIPAA covered.
But we can't, we have to do better education and communication with our students about using those phones, because it causes great harm. Because
So
can
we
you
can still
imagine
listen.
being the parent or the child and having that? Yeah, we could do, we have
So I think
disciplinary outcomes.
kids need to be educated that if they improperly use videos, that they can be suspended or, you know, that there's a disciplinary
Good luck
process.
to you with it. You probably know more.
Yeah, I think that's a different discussion versus the media. Yes, I think putting the media there would be more suffice.
We thought about this because last fall we had the meetings about what would we do if we had like a school shooting or something or whatever, we had to evacuate. We went over to the church and we were talking about how we're gonna manage the media, how we're gonna handle all these things. You all have seen what has happened in other venues, and we want Candace and her team to be able to have some ability to control the pandemonium, because it would be that way.
Yeah, it just seems like we should have some like this disciplinary stuff over what happens. So yeah, okay, sorry to digress, but it's a good point. Intrigued me.
Yeah, but I think media would definitely be a problem.
That's definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
and just to speak to your point, I do agree with this because of the fact that I watched when they had the shooting in Orangeburg, and I watched how they allowed the media to be in certain places, and they told them where they want them at, and that worked out very great, and the media were very respectable, and also they helped. They were great, consistent amongst the district in getting the word out to the parents, so that the parents wasn't afraid. So I see the importance of that.
Yeah,
So that's why.
I know, I try to look at every time there's a shooting somewhere, I immediately go look at that school's communication, their website and all that stuff, just to see how they're handling it.
Excellent.
It's interesting, yeah.
We just hope it never.
I know.
Thank you for what you do in your staff.
No, yeah, I appreciate it.
It's just, I think that's gonna be such a.
Yeah, I would-
discussion.
I would want you to say this.
Okay, all right, so, do we need a motion to bring these ARs to the board, or do we just sign off, except? Robin, what do we do?
We put them on there, but you don't.
On the consent agenda, right?
Yeah, they're
No,
just
but they, you
information.
don't approve them or do anything,
accept them.
or accept
So I'll just mention the report that we reviewed some small.
And
You just
when you would be
approve it,
available,
but you- they won't be- Yeah, you don't have to do anything with them.
I just wanted to do it right.
now we're gonna go into they will go into board docs.
Yeah, and I'll bring it up in the report.
Under
We're gonna
your
have to
report,
officially
right. You don't officially
acknowledge
approve or
that
do
we
anything.
discussed them.
It's just part of your.
All right, so that, I think, now we're down to future topics. Did you want to add your future topics, Mr. Smith?
I think those future topics might go on the actual, to the, will they not go to the officers?
You mean for the full board agenda as opposed to the operations?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I think those are worth talking about having those topics in executive session. I think that's a full board discussion.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're concerned about that contract, about
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
the custodial.
those
contract?
custodial contracts, and also I think that's a full board topic.
Was it the custodial, was it
I was
another?
gonna say,
contract? Just custodial?
Can I make a suggestion? You talk with the superintendent about that? I mean, he needs.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I think that
We have to, at the very least, we gotta post.
I would definitely have a conversation with them, and in terms of what my concerns are, I will have that. But in terms of what I'm going to send to the board, I'm going to send those when the time is definitely when we have available to discuss them. But I will discuss that with him. And so in terms of what information that he needs, but I believe he already have all the information. There's no surprises. I'm sure he's not Rodriguez. He's a very smart man. He has what he needs, I believe.
Yes, please.
Can I just ask, Mr. Adam, what were you going to say?
I just don't know what the conversation is in executive session. I mean, there's certain things that are required for executive session. Is it a contract?
I say contract man. It's a contract man.
So
that's different than what I thought you were asking for. I'm sorry. So that's why I'm asking for clarification. I thought you really wanted more of the history of why did we decide to outsource it, and what were some of the economics of outsourcing. I didn't know you want to look at this exact contract.
Yeah, I want to look at both contracts, and we can get that history information as well. But that part of it is not in executive session.
Right, I agree with that.
So that's why I figured that the initial start of the whole conversation, it needs to be taking place in executive session because it's about the contracts. So it's, and then from that conversation can stem that information that what you're talking about.
So is your question, what would it take to get out of our current contracts?
That's not my question.
I think you just want, we'll just initiate at the board level discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You can just send that to executive.
I was gonna say, I mean, at staff level, I have no idea what you need right now. And unless the conversation's going with the superintendent where he can relay that to us,
I think David Stripinger, Mr. Stripinger is on. I think it would come through him and he would probably figure out what is needed for that discussion.
So if you're gonna write an email to the officers for the agenda, ask for it to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Got it. So I guess until then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, and then let the executives committee handle it and how they want to approach it. They'll get more information, they'll talk to you, Dr. Rodriguez. Since it's this committee, I think if there's no other future topics, we're done.
And we need to talk about our meeting dates
Yeah.
because technically you are scheduled for the 14th, which is during spring break.
Yeah, and I'm, right.
So I was going to suggest we had moved finance to the 7th at 5 o'clock. Do you want to move your meeting during the week of either on the 6th or the 5th? Do we want to move the meeting that week? Or technically,
I'd like to do it after spring break if it's okay with everybody.
Did we move
So
the clock?
I asked if the clock, because the clock is scheduled to meet during spring break. And I wasn't sure if that was okay. So anyways, but going back to,
So when, week of the 18th, then, when do you want to meet?
and we don't know if the clock is meeting during that week.
Well, I mean, I think that spring break, we probably ought to do it. So we need to have that, I can have that conversation with Ted Bar. I mean, we can, if y'all are looking for that following Wednesday, and if that looks good, that's what we can.
Following Wednesday work, the 20th?
Yeah.
Right now, there's the 20th is fine.
Okay, and then it would probably, we were planning on having a clock meeting, not meeting, but at,
Right, so I'll talk with Ted Barber and see what his thoughts are on it.
Wednesday, April 20th, is that right, Robin?
Is that what you're suggesting?
so like 4:30 or whatever, but somewhere between 4 and 4:30, if 4 o'clock, if that works out, and if it doesn't, we'll just have to email. But you know, if we get it before the next board meeting on April 5th, I can make an announcement too.
So you want to meet at 4 or 4:30?
I'm fine with 4. I just didn't know if the dismissal schedule you forgot, because that's always moved.
Right, so we would suggest probably 4:30.
April 20th is what you're saying?
Yes. And then if that changes, just let me know, and we can send emails and then confirm it on the 5th when we report this meeting. Confirm it. And that'll be facilities focused. So you'll bring back that facility use report with the.
Change it to the current year.
Yeah.
I mean, OE.
Yeah. I was kind of reviewed on the fly, I'm not sure.
Yes, no, yep.
And then just a construction update. I don't think there's anything else we have pending for facilities. When are we gonna start working on?
I might have.
We'll do your ARs first.
Okay.
Think we get all of our uses.
No.
Maybe see if the counties.
I've got something else. Yeah.
It's over 8%. Project proposition. Well done.
There's faster.
I'm sorry, are we adjourned?
Not yet.
We're about to be.
Okay. I can't really hear you guys if you're whispering.
Yeah. So we'll just say tentatively Wednesday, March 20th, 4:30 at Beaufort High.
Or April 20th.
April 20th.
April 20th.
Anything else?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
We're adjourned now.
to pick up specifically with that group, it may not be on that Wednesday.
Gotcha.
Wednesday works for us as staff because that's the day our collection centers are closed.
Okay, very
Earth
good.
Day is actually on the, on Thursday.
Okay.
So, but just let us know